Okay, all right. Amazing day, isn't it? Oh my goodness. Welcome to the first installment of the Africa Entrepreneurship Forum. This is where we connect entrepreneurs to entrepreneurs, build platforms for them to thrive. The key objective is for us to build a continent-wide platform where you and I, as entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs, innovators, people who are solving some of the big heteroheaded problems of our continent, to be able to share learnings, learn from each other, explore some opportunities, and then also to navigate some of the, challenges that we are facing. There are a lot of people here, a few people who will be joining us pretty soon also, who have managed to, do something amazing within their own space. So please let us know where you're connecting from. Tell us what business you are building or what enterprise that you're currently championing or leading, what idea that you want to also, deploy to help address these challenges that we face on the continent. Just yesterday, I heard a news that the pipeline under internet cable pipeline under sea has been broken. So connectivity in my home country, Ghana, and also I think Nigeria, Nankwa, one of our panelists was sharing earlier that her internet is just all over the place. We have a serious connectivity challenge on the continent. That's one of the things that personally I want all of us, to assemble our human geniuses to be able to address this issue so that we won't have any pipeline or any undersea cable being broken. Let's try and connect some fiber optics and try and do something quicker for Africa. So I'm hoping that the internet will be favorable for everybody who is connecting. My name is Andrews Akoto Ado. If the name is a mouthful, my friends call me Andy, so it's going to be very easy for you to mention. It's not Andy, which is the Aspen Network of Development Entrepreneurs. It's Andy. We have Andy, a rep from Andy, original head of regional for the East Africa region. That's Grace Washiru. I'm sure she's probably laughing now. Regional head for East Africa chapter of the Aspen Network of Development Entrepreneurs, which we know them to be Andy. I just saw the founder of the Shared Value Africa Initiative, Tiki, sharing a comment that we also had connectivity problems, down south, which is this issue seems to be a continental problem. We need to find a way of addressing this. Hey, so thank you so much for joining us for the first installment of the Africa Entrepreneurship Forum. Today's program is quite packed because we have something exciting to launch today. You can see on my background, it's called Jammy Trade, Together Building a Better Tomorrow. We're going to hear more about Jammy Trade pretty soon. It's an exciting platform to help us, connect with each other, facilitate or be the catalyst to drive this wonderful program or initiative that the AU launched somewhere in 2021 with so many continents, our countries ratifying on it, called the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. We want to make sure it works. And Jammy Trade, I believe, is that catalyst, is that platform to help make this something that will not tout it or say that, okay, it's the largest, potentially going to be the largest free trade area in the world, but something that becomes our reality. We'll tell you more about that pretty soon. But before we get into the conversation, let us do something we normally do. Check the gauge the tempo and trying to see how we're all feeling, as the first session of 2024. Want to know how you are feeling about the year. We're already in the month of March, it's the third month. And so let us know how you're feeling. I'm quite positive that 2024 will be a good year. I am always positive. I'm an incurable optimist. I'm always positive. So let me know what you're thinking. Maybe I'm also not so sure. You'll wait to see how the year unfolds. That's also fine. You want to probably, your start was not good. Let us know and hope the year gets better. And I hope the year gets better for everyone, regardless of how you started the year. I started with a bit of some hurdles, a bit of a challenge here and there. But hey, as I said, incurable optimist. I'm always looking for the brighter side. So let me know what you also think about how the year looks like for you. And I'm going to share some quick housekeeping rules after we check the poll. Okay, we have the poll here. Can see on the screen, right? Wow, 84% of us. Wow, I like that. Believe that it's going to be a positive year. I feel that energy. Hey, give me some Friday energy that this year is going to be amazing for us, regardless of connectivity challenges and pipelines getting broken. And oh, we have 8%. I think it's equal. The 8%, 8% saying that they're not sure. Hey, keep the fire burning. Keep your eyes on your goals, and trust me, it's going to work out for you. Awesome. Let us know where you're connecting from. I'm originally from Ghana. I'm a Ghanaian. But now I'm based in Ethiopia. I'm currently in Addis Ababa. It's known as the capital city of Africa. Yeah, it's where a lot of things started from. You know, the AU is here and all that. So I'm feeling some sort of African energy. I'm an African at heart. I don't usually like to call myself a Ghanaian. I like to call myself an African. And this is the African Entrepreneurship Forum. So we're going to do something quickly to start the conversation. It's called the teaser for Geometry. I already told you about what we have in store for today's conversation. We are going to be launching this platform. Hey man, tell a friend to tell another friend that you're connected on the African Entrepreneurship Forum. Send a text on WhatsApp, send a tweet on X. I don't know how it's going to be called now since it's no longer Twitter. It's been a long time since I check the name, whether it's going to be send an X or send a tweet. Hey, do that. Send something on Facebook, Instagram, and let people know that you're here on the African Entrepreneurship Forum. Let us get the teaser for the Jammy Trade now. Awesome. Hi, this is Andrew Sakwetado, and I know Jammy Trade.
Hi, this is Justine Kiska, and I know Jammy Trade.
Hi, this is Mumbi Washira, and I know Jammy Trade.
Hi, this is Benedict Mabala, and I know Jammy Trade.
Hi, I'm Keaton Sati, and I know Jammy Trade.
Hi, I'm Zandri Ace, and I know Jammy Trade.
Hi, this is Dhiren Mutsami, and I know Jammy Trade.
Wow, do you know Jammy Trade? I know Jammy Trade. I so much know Jammy Trade that I'm super excited about Jammy Trade. Some of the things that you already heard or saw with the last, the slide after the videos, after the wonderful faces of people that I know, people that I've had interactions with behind the scene as youth leaders on behalf of driving what we call the creating shared value narrative, building the continent that we would be able to be proud of and say that this is where the most powerful business networks are, the most powerful people reside, and the most resilient and forward-thinking, innovative people reside. And these are people that, if I should take some time to tell you about them, I saw Benedict driving Kiru in Nigeria, a few people that I've had personal, some conversations with who are behind and also saying behind the shared value, the shared value network, and also saying that they know Jammy Trade. I want you to do something quickly now as part of what we want to do with Jammy Trade is to get people to begin to know about it, read about it. So you can just put in your browser jammytrade.africa. We are on the Africa side of things, jammytrade.africa, to get yourself abreast a bit, and then we will now get the thing rolling. Whilst you get a curiosity there, we're willing to see what is in it for you as an entrepreneur. You want to build the Jammy Trade pioneers. Keep that in mind, the Jammy Trade pioneers. We're talking more about that pretty soon. All right. Okay, so today it's quite a packed program, but we've assembled some great minds here who are going to be sharing what they believe would help us drive One Africa and help us build businesses that are able to solve some of the challenges that confront us. There are 4 thematic areas of the discussion, and each and every speaker that will be invited, that will take turns, are going to be speaking on these topics. We have number 1, access to funding. Number 2, networking and collaboration. Number 3, incubation and accelerators. Number 4, technology and innovation support. Technology and innovation support. So number 1, we have an amazing man, somebody who has so much experience within the field of building sustainable businesses. Sustainable businesses. The keyword is sustainable businesses. He's a Chief Business Development and Strategy Officer with Safaricom PLC. He's by the name Michael Motiga. Michael Motiga is a man with so many experiences, and I am going to be inviting him shortly to talk to us how we as African entrepreneurs can be able to access funding. It's one of the big things, big conversation in minds of entrepreneurs. So Michael, good to have you here, sir. And with the experiences that you've assembled over the years, it's been more than a decade of experience within the field of strategy and business development. You now hold a very big office with Safaricom. Safaricom, last year or 2 years ago, I had some conversations that Safaricom is going to be launching in Ethiopia. I'm currently in Ethiopia. I saw a big billboard of Safaricom. And I've had conversation around how the network is going, how people are beginning to sign up onto it, and also with the M-Pesa. So I see the business growing. Safaricom has chopped a lot of successes on the continent already. Now, for our entrepreneurs who are gathered here, please share. Let us know accessing funding, the myth, the realities, and the intricacies of the African continent or the African entrepreneurs, what it means to access funding. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Andrews. You hear someone speak about your profile and you look around and wonder, is that me that you're talking about? But thank you for the very warm introduction, and welcome everybody to the call and the discussion, actually. So my name is Michael Motiga, as Andrews mentioned. I'm Chief Business Development and Strategy Officer at Safaricom. Prior to that, I've spent most of my career actually in corporate and investment banking. So was with Citibank for about 17 years. My last role, I was head of corporate finance for Africa. So it's a time I've had, by virtue of the various roles I've played, an opportunity to really have a think through the opportunity as well as the challenges on fundraising on the continent. But maybe a bit of a word about Safaricom, and I'm very happy, Andrews, you are in Addis. So we formally launched Addis last year. It's a new entrant into a two-market opportunity. We are very excited about it because Ethiopia is really one of the last frontiers in terms of a competitive telco market. We've progressed well. I'm glad you're seeing our branding in the country. But over and above that, we have launched our mobile money platform, M-Pesa. And we're looking to opportunities now. We can start working with entrepreneurs in Addis and Ethiopia in terms of opportunities for them to leverage the platform, access a wide range of customers, and in essence, provide solutions for what the market actually needs. And which is maybe the place to start in terms of access to funding and some of the things that entrepreneurs need to be very mindful about. The very first issue we find, interestingly, is what exactly is the proposition that you're trying to solve for as an entrepreneur? And I ask that because I think one of the things around technology is the excitement around technology and the coding and the building and the architecturing, etc., without having a really deep thought around what exactly are you solving for. Because without that view of the solve and the proposition and the problem that you're addressing, you then will not be able to get the customer base in a sustainable way, which will then make your business case questionable, which will then make the possibility of raising funding even more challenging. So having a very clear view of the problem and how your proposition or your idea addresses that problem is a very critical part of this notion of how you raise funds in the back of that. The second big issue is how you organize. And what I mean by that is, and I see this, so just as a bit of background, so as Safaricom, we've now launched a Spark Accelerator. What the Spark Accelerator is supposed to be is a vehicle by which we will support entrepreneurs with packaging, with the design of the ideas and the solutions and the fundraising. We're doing this in partnership with M-Pesa Africa, which is Africa's largest fintech, as well as with Sumitomo Corporation, which is a Fortune 500 company. And I think what's important to note of that is two things. The first one is there is capital. The second part is you do have the technical support to make it work. But that only works in the event you have a clear idea of how you're being organized. So who are your shareholders? What's their capacity to raise money or to contribute towards future fundraising? What's your notion as to how much equity you're willing to give out to shareholders or to equity investors? Because the reality is that if you want to maintain control without some semblance of sharing, for example, board seats or some semblance of sharing managerial control, I think you will find that the universe of investors tends to shrink fairly quickly. So having a clear view as to your organizational construct and how you are organized or want to be organized, I think is critical as part of the fundraising process. The third thing, so I've touched on what you're solving for, how you're organized to solve that particular challenge, and then we go into then what kind of capital you need. You know, what we've seen a lot of over the last, I'd say 3 years, is that a lot of startups have been funded through dollar funding, primarily of US venture capital and private equity firms. The first thing about that is you are then injecting a degree of foreign currency risk into your business. So you have to be careful about matching closely your source of funding with your source of revenue, right? Otherwise, you will carry some forex risk. And forex risk in our markets in Africa is a real issue, right? Kenya, for example, saw a rapid depreciation from the beginning of the year of the shilling, something close to 30%, 35% depreciation. We're now seeing a rapid appreciation, something like 20% in the last 2 weeks. That volatility is not great for entrepreneurial companies because don't forget, at the end of the day, your shareholders, your lenders do require a return, do require some stability of performance. So being careful that you're matching your underlying cash flow with your source of funding is very important. And then the last big bucket of issues when it comes to the fundraising is what's the sort of exit plan that you're looking at for the various sequences. So you see, you know, you've got your early stage or seed stage round. You then should ideally be growing to a Series A, then a Series B, then a Series C, sort of funding as you scale, as you get to require more capital to meet a larger market and a larger proposition. And therefore having that clarity in terms of the potential funding pools that you get into the various sequences. There are those investors who are happy to be venture investors because of very high returns. So you've got that appetite for high risk and high returns. You've got those investors who are less appreciative and would prefer a more steady cash flow. You've moved beyond the proof of concept. You're probably now at a scaling stage. And that those investors who are looking at a basket of countries, so it's probably your Series B, C's sort of funding, where you're now seeking to expand regionally. You're looking at a portfolio of countries, and therefore mitigating the risk of any individual country that way. So having support around helping you through that cycle of who's an appropriate Series A, Series B, Series C venture stage investor is going to be useful. At Safaricom, with the Safaricom Ventures, one of the bigger things we want to do is provide an anchor type investor in these local markets, an anchor in the sense of it's a large corporate with a large local currency funding pool or funding capacity, and then helps to give that confidence to future investors around there being support locally for these ventures and these entrepreneurs. So I think those are the big 4 buckets, as I put it. We are helping our cohort as part of Spark through this cycle. So for the companies we received already this year, before we close the tender, about 200, just over 200 applications. We are working through the screening, working with the entrepreneurs around the ideas, and we will take roughly the best 10% through the program, which will help them in terms of the managerial support. That includes things like how they're organized, accounting support and tax support through PwC as one of the partners in our consortium. We're going to look through then helping them on the technical support in the build of the technology and the platforms they're working through. And then we'll go into the funding support and what kind of investors are happy to participate and invest in some of these new entrepreneurial ideas. But it's a sequence. I think we rush too quickly into I need money, I need money. I think if we get your foundations right, what you're building and the target market and what you're solving for, how you're organized, how you're structured, how you'll be managed, I think the funding cycle becomes a lot easier. So Andrews, I'll pause there, and I don't know if there are going to be any questions.
Wow, thank you so much for that. It's interesting how you have summarized this. I'm sure when we spend time to go into detail, it will take almost the whole day. But I appreciate how you've summarized this 4 key points. What are you solving for? How organized are you? What sort of capital do you need? And what's your exit plan? And you added that with that sort of understanding with the ecosystems, particularly with Africa, and also with how startups on the continent are also maybe taking funding from Europe and all that. I have a question, but before I check the chat box, please, if you have any question, any burning question, put it in the chat box. I'll be so happy to read it out for Michael to address it. But I have a question. When currently look at the continent, we know that this current startup wave and fintechs, agritechs, insurtech, and what have you. How are the investors on the continent aligning to the specific issues that perhaps, in terms of the clear idea what we are solving for, they are not pushing towards? I feel like maybe they're pushing towards a certain specific, place. And you are in the quote unquote the fintech days with the M-Pesa and all that. Is that where we should look at? And is that where perhaps all the potential problems and the big breakout in terms of investments, return on investment for the investors and all that seems to be? Or there is something that you would want to share in light of how maybe entrepreneurs should position themselves to attract other source of funding? Not just trying to design their programs or their offerings within where they think the investor is interested in. How can we navigate that dynamic so that entrepreneurs will look at solving for specific problems, not just trying to meet a certain investment, desires?
Yeah, so it's a very good point, Andrews. I think they're buzzwords, if you may call it that, right? People talk about fintech, people talk about agri-tech, people talk about health tech, right? Where the perception is that investors are keen to invest only in those areas. There's a reason for that. One is because, especially investors on the continent, a lot of it is driven by either family offices or corporate venture capital. Now, corporate venture capital is very geared towards supporting those sort of areas that the main corporate is focused on, right? So I'll give you an example. For us at Safaricom, we're not going to invest in a farm, right? Where it's outside our business scope, when we're not going to look at that. But if you talk about fintech, you talk about agritech, you talk about edutech, those are things that we definitely will have a look at, because it ties in closely to what our purpose is around being a technology company, being and supporting clear ecosystems or certain ecosystems in our markets. But that's what the danger is, that if you design your business, it's a tail wagging the dog, not the other way around. If you design your business with a gearing of, I want to get funding for so and so, and then you try to pinpoint specific funders, it's the wrong way to do it. I think you have to start with the basic premise of, what am I solving for, right? Then and our content has got many challenges in terms of everything from poverty to economic opportunities and growth, to healthcare, to insurance and how you mitigate catastrophic risks, etc. So there are many problems on the continent that can be solved, right? But if you get a business saying, "Oh, I've heard investors like talking about, I don't know, health tech, so let me gear my business as health tech," where you'll fall short as an entrepreneur is that you're not solving a real problem, and therefore, or you're not clear about what you're solving for, and therefore any premise of future cash flow or customer growth may not come through. And if it doesn't come through, then your funding problems become even bigger. So always start with the underlying premise. What's the actual fix you're trying to do? And then you'll find different pockets of funding available. One of the things obviously has been a challenge in the continent is large pockets of investor capacity hasn't been there, and that's why there's been a lot of activity offshore, especially for early stage, high risk opportunities. And one of the things that I'd like to see, or hopefully we can grow over the next few years, is a much deeper early stage funding capacity on the continent. So you've got Nigerian investors, for example, are able to invest in Naira. You've got Kenyan investors investing in shillings. You've got Kwacha in Zambia capacity, because having that pool of at-risk capital, early stage capacity, I think will be critical to building that confidence in the ecosystem going forward.
Fantastic. I know you have a hard stop, like right about now, but can
I'll take one or two questions. Yeah,
one or two questions. Read one or two questions. So I have here from Tapelo, Michael. He said, I recently wrote a paper of funding challenges. Okay, here's the question where startups face in the tech sector, and found that there is much work to be done to actually ready the entrepreneurs, more like investor readiness, which is your second point around organizing. How can we bridge that when it comes to how startups are able to, position themselves first before access? I think you touched a bit on that in terms of how you have to have a clear, what are you solving for, first and foremost, understanding you now organize to be ready for the funding. But maybe the question here would be that there are current gaps within the space in terms of how startups are able to access the funding, and what are the specific things that perhaps, if you're an investor, you'll be looking out for a startup on the continent, aside from organizing. So what makes up the organizing bits?
So what makes up the organizing bit is, first of all, who's leading it? What's their experience, or what's their capacity? What's their credibility? Other questions about, are they doing it for the right reasons? Are they passionate about their business and their opportunity? Are they able to manage and corral a team around them to actually execute that opportunity? I think we see it a lot where you've got really smart guys, brilliant guys, but a business isn't built by an individual person, right? You have to be able to lead a team, to have the right resources in place, to build the right technology, to stress test it in terms of debugging it and making sure it actually works. You've got to be able to have the right accountant, the simple point, keeping your books and keeping control over your cash flows or visibility about your cash flows. You need to have the right reporting construct that you're actually feeding through real numbers and sales and how your business is actually performing, and you're tracking your performance. You need to go into depth as to your business model. Where are you actually selling? How's the roll-up of cash, and how's the roll-up of customer acquisition actually happening, right? Are you pricing it right? Do you have a clear view of your market risk or competitors and the niche that you're actually targeting and solving for? But I think it's that level of organization in terms of you're running a business. You're transitioning from a great idea to running a business, and running a business is tedious stuff, right? It's tax compliance. It's dealing with auditors. It's payroll, right? It's stuff that you have to do day in, day out, and you have to be organized to address that.
Awesome. I have one more question. There are a lot of questions coming in. I'm so sorry, I cannot take more other than just this one for Michael. So there's this question about why do European venture capitals organizations focus on family offices as opposed to African venture capital organization focus more on corporate? So it's looking at a broader ecosystem. Should African investors or venture capital make a shift to find a way of doing more family offices? What's your response to that?
I think it's maybe it's first of all, it's the history, right? The reason why you've got more European or Western family offices is they are wealthier economies, right? So these are family offices of much bigger or much older entities that have managed to accumulate capital over decades and sometimes longer than that, right? We are still a fairly young continent in terms of our business environment, local entrepreneurship, etc. It's 50 years plus of African independence, but the reality is that in the scale of things, we're still babies. So we will have more African family houses coming up as the economies get larger, as more businesses grow, and family capacity or emerges a lot more strongly. But I agree with the sentiment that in the long run for our continent, we have to build that capacity, right? We have to build a deeper capacity of investors willing to take higher risk, higher reward positions for early stage capital. One, because it helps to de-risk your currency risk, because you're able to fund as close as possible to local cash, to local currency cash flows. And secondly, because it builds a sense of confidence. One of the things that's emerging, especially in the post-COVID period, is at the end of the day, most European or American investors would not be able to distinguish between Ndola and Kinshasa, for example, right? The guys, the local knowledge, the local nuances are the people on the ground. And you have a better pool of capital supporting you from the ground, you then have a better credibility when you go to raise money offshore.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Michael. We had a hard stop like 5 minutes or 7 minutes ago, but you were gracious enough to address some of those present questions, and you gave us a lot of insight into what we should be doing as African entrepreneurs and positioning ourselves to be better in attract those fundings that you said are available. The capital could be available, but then how you position yourself, what are you solving for, how organized are you, what sort of capital do you need? So you need to do your, investment research on the type of capital you need. Do you need a grant? Do you need a private equity fund? Do you need a corporate investor? What sort of funding do you need? And then the last thing is, what's the exit plan? Thank you so much for sharing this insights with us. This afternoon, my time in Addis is I think it's morning in Ghana, and you made time for this. Thank you. We hope you would probably stay a little bit longer. We have our next speaker who is going to be talking on networking and collaboration for opportunities, networking and collaboration around opportunities. The theme of today's African Entrepreneurship Forum is From Vision to Ventures, right? Unearthing African entrepreneurial opportunities. So we are talking on some 4 key topics: access to funding, networking and collaboration opportunities, and then we have, incubators and accelerator and technology and innovation support. The second speaker is from the Aspen Network of Development Entrepreneurs. I nearly said it's from Aspen Andy, because I already gave a disclaimer that my name, you can call me Andy, but for Andy, which is Aspen Network of Development Entrepreneurs, we have Grace Washoru, who is the regional head East African chapter of the network. It's going to be talking to us about networking and collaboration for opportunities. Grace, are you there? All
Yes,
right.
I am. Thank
Over
you.
to you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody from where you're calling in from. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Shared Value, for this opportunity to share some of the work that Andy does. I will share a few slides here and I'll get right into it because time is quite constrained. Follow with me, go with me, and we will be able to answer some questions even as we come through. So what is Aspen Network of Development Entrepreneurs? We are a global... Yes, sir.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Grace.
Okay. Yes, so I'm going to be talking about Andy, about who we are, what work we do, and what opportunities are there for networking and collaborating. And we'll see how you can be able to tap into the opportunities that Andy has for your own work, even as we continue talking about how to support small and growing businesses in Africa. So the Andy stands for Aspen Network of Development Entrepreneurs. We are a global network of organizations that propel entrepreneurship in development countries and economies. And we are not a network of small and growing businesses directly, but of their intermediaries. We have 8 chapters across the world, and here in Africa, we have East Africa, West Africa, and Southern Africa. I lead the East African chapter. We have about 230 members, or even more than that, across 150 countries, supporting more than 2,000 small and growing businesses. We believe that through our members, we are able to provide critical financial, educational, and business support services to these SGBs based on the conviction that SGBs will create jobs, stimulate long-term economic growth, and produce environmental and social benefits through the work that you are actually doing. And how do we define small and growing businesses? They're those businesses that are seeking catalytic funding between $20,000 to about $2 million, have between 5 to 100 to 250 employees. And that segue between, those businesses that can get financing from microfinance, but are too small for traditional commercial capital. So we come to be able to cater to that segment. Our intermediaries who are members include capacity development providers, investors, researchers. So when you think about that ecosystem of entrepreneurs and that supporting ecosystem, those members of that supportive ecosystem are the actual members that we have as Andy members. What does that look like? We strive to look at the sector challenges that we find within the ecosystems that we serve, which is talent development, access to finance, and impact management. And to be able to do that, we really stand on these 3 central pillars: that we must be able to make a case for small and growing businesses. We must be able to increase efficiency of those organizations that support them. And we must be able to cultivate entrepreneurial ecosystems. How we do this is by concentrating on the SDGs up there. We look at small and growing businesses as drivers of decent work, as drivers of gender equality, and as drivers of climate action. When you look at climate, at gender equality, what are some things we look into? We look to promote investments and effective supportive services for women-led small and growing businesses. How do we increase inclusive employment, and how do we scale gender-focused businesses? The opportunities that we have for these networks and collaboration is through something we call action labs that we'll go through in a bit, and facilities that usually fund such outcomes. We also look at decent work, what kind of are we create, what kind of economic drivers are we having in the emerging markets, and how is the nature of work changing? And again, we have groups to show that. Then under climate action, we want to see and support the work of, any climate innovation that we have, and also increase investments in that space, increase collaboration in that space, and also work towards policy and advocacy. The networking opportunities that we have, we structure them in these 3 ways. We have learning labs. There are a series of global workshops that really support dissemination of the knowledge that we have as Andy, or the knowledge that our partners have, or the knowledge that our networks have. We also have something we call the Action Lab. It's a platform that convenes participants to ideate a prototype solution, process thematic challenge. And thirdly, lastly, we have working groups where we bring experts and participants together to just look at working areas to promote evidence-based solutions and challenges. So we are big on convening, connecting, and collaboration. How we do this is very big in terms of conferences. We have the Metric Conference that's coming to Nairobi in 2025. We also have an annual conference that's going to be in Bangkok, Thailand this year. We also have a Pan-African convening that's going to be in Abidjan this year in November. The annual conference is in Bangkok in September. And we bring intermediaries together and entrepreneurs together to be able to share their work, to be able to have very low-key relation building opportunities and networking opportunities that will access you to a funder, that will access you to a consultant, that will access you to an accelerator, but also giving the opportunity for an entrepreneur to be able to showcase the work that they do. Conferences are a big thing that we do. Networking is to working through a systematic challenge, to being able to actually bring these intermediaries together. The other thing we do is we do trainings. We do trainings that are based on impact measurement, even investor management training. We bring investment managers trainers together, and we are able to train our entrepreneurs that are actually implementing some funds. We bring intermediaries that are implementing funds as well. We're able to collaborate, share best experiences, be able to be able to kind of figure out what are the solutions that are working for each other, what do we need to get rid of, and what is working best. And the next IMT, the next investment manager training, is going to be happening in Nairobi in November of 2024. We also, orientate our members on how to bring on investing. This piece is very important for our work. We do a lot of my apologies, that build a knowledge base for SGB support organizations to improve the effectiveness through, SGB support tracking, or also ecosystem snapshot. Whoever is talking. Thank you. With these snapshots, we are able to understand ecosystems. We are able to understand what opportunity is there in terms of investment, what opportunity is there in terms of programmatic capacity building for entrepreneurs. We're also able to understand where is collaboration happening, what is the drivers of that collaboration, the case studies of working collaborations, working enterprises, and then we're able to now organize and use that as recommendation for any investment that comes into that market, for any programmatic activity, and for any convening activity there. So and you'll have these slides, these are some of the snapshots that we have. We have some in East Africa, some in South Africa, and some are coming in West Africa as well. In East Africa, what we have right now, and this applies across most of the chapters, is the convenings that we have roundtables, we have working groups, we have networking forums, we have programs that are there that are focusing on women, that are focusing on youth, are focusing on climate action, but we also have research, capacity building, and policy and advocacy. So as Andy is situated, wherever you are as an entrepreneur, we need to figure out how to change our mindsets to put ourselves in front of these opportunities. A lot of times we are afraid to go for them, or we don't know whether we belong, or we don't know how to seek them out, but we have to be at the front of that opportunity seeking. So to build these relationships that drive collaborations. So my call of action to you today is join an intermediary group or a program. When you have unity in purpose, when you have one voice, you're able to represent yourself better and be able to access these opportunities better when you're associated with others than when you're in silos. So join those accelerator groups, join those programs they have, join those intermediary groups, because you will be able to be in a channel and a conduit of information and opportunities and collaborations. Attend events. I cannot say that enough. When you attend events, everybody's there with a specific purpose of advancing in the entrepreneurship ecosystem. And there'll be more acceptability and willingness than when you are separate to be able to meet each other. Putting your sweat equity. What is your branding? How do you present yourself that will actually make that opportunity not just be aware to you, but be able to be absorbed for you? Do you look at your strategic alignment with funders, with accelerators, with whoever? It is very important to put in the sector equities so that you're able to develop your strategies well, you're able to have your financial literacy, you're able to have your governance in check, you're able to have your impact goals in check. Like the previous speaker said, you need to think about your vision and your mission and not adjust that to whoever is giving you money, but to stand on what you want to be. So equity is important to put yourself out there, to brand yourself, to package yourself properly, so that you're able to interface with the right people for these opportunities and collaborations. And lastly, I'll leave you with, be ready to unlearn, be ready to relearn, and be ready to learn. So learn about us more at antiglobal.org. You'll be able to see all the intermediaries are in your region and all the programs that they're leading. So get on that website, antiglobal.org. Go on the membership tab, download as per your region, see what is happening there, join the programs. You can contact us through that email address. We will be able to really connect you to the different regions as you need. And make sure you follow us on LinkedIn and X. We put all our opportunities there and through our members, for entrepreneurs, and you'll be able to get these opportunities. Thank you very much. And thank you. Back to you, Andy.
Yeah, the irony, yeah. Thank you so much, Grace. Insightful presentation. I mean, the call to action is just spot on, and it just moves us nicely into taking a poll quickly to know what our entrepreneurs currently on the platform think about opportunities that are currently available for them, and then those that are actually accessible to them. You touched a bit about changing the mindset and being at the forefront of finding those opportunities. So hey, there you go. We have the poll. Do you think the opportunities available for African entrepreneurs are accessible? Okay. I think they're accessible. Hearing from Grace, Andy, I mean, there's a plethora of opportunities that you can access on the platform. Let's know what you think. You have a lot of comments coming in. I think people are just they're just blown away by the work of Andy. We would definitely be in the conversation even more. Let's see the result of the poll, and then I'll just pick your mind on the result of the poll, because you would probably help us with some insights there.
Absolutely.
Okay, so there you go. Grace, we have 16% of our participants today saying that yes, it is easy to know about the available opportunities and access them. We have 66% saying somewhat, some accessible while others are not. We have 18% saying no. There is too much red tape, and this makes it hard for me to access available opportunities. Quick housekeeping rules, please. Can you mute your mics and turn off your video so that we can hear ourselves? Thank you so much. So Grace, quick one. What do you think about this? Based on your presentation, there seems to be that sort of uncertainty amongst our entrepreneurs. They are not so sure. How can we tackle this? Just 1 minute thought from you.
Sure. And I like someone who said access to information is a big problem in Africa. And I agree with you completely. This is why it's super important to align yourselves with those channels and those conduits of information. Working in silos is not going to work. So you need to really align yourself with those opportunities. Let's say a majority of African entrepreneurs who are in rural areas, very urban areas, will not probably even have proper internet. You've just talked about today the cables being broken and internet being, wishy-washy wherever you are. So it's important for us to have these digital platforms that we can be able to follow information, but it's also important to be physically in spaces that you can be able to actually channel this communication, channel these opportunities, and channel these collaborations. It is in the interconnectedness that you have, you're able to scale your visibility. It is in that relation building that you are able to be front and center in someone's mind. When opportunity comes, they're able to think quickly, I know so-and-so who can actually help me with this situation. And that's why in networking, speaking, and especially for us Africans, it's super important for us to connect physically, to connect person to person, to build those relationships. I know that the cultures throughout the continent are different in terms of how we build trust and how we build relationships. But at the end of the day, the closer we get to building trust, the closer we get to building relationships, authentic relationships, the easier and the closer we get to having collaborations that will actually benefit our businesses and pull us out of poverty as a continent. Why do I say this? We've had situations where we are collaborating more based on whatever money is coming. Right. So I'll give you an example in Kenya. World Bank gave the government some money to be able to develop entrepreneurs, and an association was created as a voice to be able to raise the profile of the entrepreneurs and the intermediaries in Kenya. But as soon as that project did not come through or was delayed, that purpose fell through. That is Kenya. But when you look at West Africa, there's a lot more collaboration that happens based on the organic need in the ecosystem. So you come together, you band together, knowing that the piece of cake is big enough for all of us, and not scrambling to really have the bigger portion, but knowing that when we come in together, each of us can have a piece of cake and we can pull our continent together without anyone pulling us down. At the end of the day, we need to learn from these examples, because if we do not build collaborations and relationships and networking opportunities based on trust and based on the intent and the mission that we have and the vision we have of raising Africa out of poverty, we'll be doing ourselves a disservice and putting ourselves at the chute, because the money comes and goes. That's one. Number two, if you go to a bank and you tell a bank, I want a loan, there's a whole due diligence process that they extend to you. A lot of times as entrepreneurs, we want it to be easier for us than it actually is. But in everything that we do, as you're trying to access funding, there's always a process, and you have to align to that process. Sometimes, sorry if I step on your toe, but we are lazy and we are refusing to align and step up. And that's why I talked about sweat equity. We need to actually rise up to the occasion and be able to demonstrate ourselves as you would when you're asking for a personal loan. When you come for financing for your business, when you come for the opportunities for your business, you actually need to pull up your socks. You need to show up and meet the conditions that are put forth. When you talk about red tape, that's why it's important to associate as a group, because it's easier to have your voice heard to be able to break down this red tape than when you're doing it by yourselves. I agree there's red tape, and I agree that we're making progress to being able to reduce this red tape, but it will not be listened to in silos. We'll be listened to as groups, and that's why it's important for us to do this. Then within your own communities, band with people that you are aligned in mission and with vision, and be able to change this and drive that change from where you are. Ask yourself, not only what can government do for me, not only what can Aspen do for me, but what can I do for them? And drive that change yourself, and that will help us get better.
Wonderful, fantastic insights there. Thank you so much, Grace. The better entrepreneurs are really taking down this insight, taking note of their approaches and strategies in accessing these opportunities that you obviously just expanded so graciously. As your name says, Grace, you just shared so graciously to us this day. Thank you, Grace. Continuing this conversation. All right. Okay, so there you have it. A second panel, panelists sharing with us networking collaborations for these enormous opportunities that are around us as Africa. Speaker, Karen Chelagat. Not going to massacre the name Karen. So Karen, for short, Karen is an innovation lead with Jacob's Ladder. She's going to be talking to us about incubators and accelerators. Could potentially help us as entrepreneurs scale from one side to the other side. All right, over to you, Karen.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Tiki, and the rest of the Shared Value team. I'm glad to be here and glad to be having this conversation. My name is Karen Chelagat. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer at Jacobs out of Africa. We are a youth-focused organization that is really looking at the problem that is called youth unemployment and looking at ways to leverage the growing investment that is going into the green economy to prepare young people to fit into the likely roles that will be created as we see a lot more investment going into this area. And we do it in a plethora of areas: communication and advocacy, development programs, and entrepreneurship and innovation, which is what I lead and presenting. And I'll share a bit about that work as I go on. So why incubators, why accelerators, why are this important? When you look at the world of entrepreneurship and the entire ecosystem, there's all manner of statistics that speak to the level of success or failure, on the other hand, that startups, encounter. There's statistics that show up to 8 out of 10 or 7 out of 10 or even up to 9 out of 10 startups, fail, depending on, how old they are, the span of their existence. There's a statistic that showed that I think it was 54% of startups in Africa fail. And I guess the commonality along this is, in all of the statistics is it's always northwards of 50%. So if you have a 1 in 2 chance of failing, why would you want to go into this? And yet, on the other hand, it's the startups, it's the entrepreneurs who really take us into new frontiers, who solve the pressing problems that exist in society. So that's where incubators come in. One study showed that an incubator, or incubator graduates have an 85% chance of success, which when you invert means we're moving down a failure rate of say 50, 70, 90% down to 15%. That's, significant. And what they do essentially is de-risk the process of, starting out a very risky venture, which startups are. And how do they do this? I think I'll cover that a bit more, but maybe first, one of the things to cover is, why do startups fail in the first place, or what are some of the common mistakes that we see amongst entrepreneurs, and then how do incubators or accelerators come in to help bridge that gap? Some of these have been mentioned by some of the prior speakers, and I'll just mention 3 specific problems that we see a lot. One, product market fit, basically meaning we have these great ideas, great products that we have built, spent a lot of time, spent a lot of money to build out, and the market doesn't quite feel the same way that you do with the same product. And this has led to a lot of failure, and I do see, particularly amongst technical founders, this being a big problem, where you really love this app that you've created, but at the end of the day, the person on ground, the customer, does not necessarily either have the level of funding or income that you're asking for, to pay in terms of your pricing, or it just doesn't really solve a pressing problem that they feel is worthwhile spending for. So that's one big challenge that we see. Another that is closely related is just the whole arena of understanding, customer journeys and designing your marketing or your business models around that. A couple of years ago, I was part of, developing products in the financial markets. And one of the things that I found that was a problem, I was pretty young in my career then, so I may not have spoken out loud, but it was very strange for me to see some of the pricing models that were being built for the market segment that was being targeted. And it's a problem that I see even now, entrepreneurs, making that problem. Suffice to say, the product failed in a couple of years. And think of it this way: if you're designing a product for small-scale farmers who probably earn their revenue maybe 3 times or 4 times a year when they receive their harvest, and you're asking for payments on a monthly basis, there's going to be a mismatch. So that alignment of customer journeys to your business development is another area that we do see a lot of problems. Then there's the whole area around team problems, whether it's a founder market fit, where founders do not necessarily have the skills, the knowledge, or generally speaking, the passion to drive solutions in a particular industry. Or we see founders bringing in individuals because, it's my cousin, or it's I've actually seen a number of stories of particularly young women, starting companies with their boyfriends. And when they break up, it's a whole issue of how do I then take out the value that I've built in, because we never really discussed that. This 3 areas specifically, the study did that showed that up to 74% of the reasons of failure are just the 3 things: product market fit, marketing, and team issues. This was quite surprising, at least for me, because for the longest time, before I came into the ecosystem, it was always the issue of lack of funding that was touted. But I've come to appreciate that it may not be so much lack of funding as a mismatch between what the funders want and where the entrepreneurs are. And that's why I like what Grace said. Do your homework, understand what is required, and align with what is what is being asked for. So given these issues that we do see coming up a lot now, accelerators, incubators would then be designing programs or interventions that help the young person or the young entrepreneur get themselves a bit more structured for launching a startup. And it may be done in various ways. There's incubation programs that will offer space, access to resources. Say, for example, if you're a tech founder and you need access to AI tools or cloud services that cost an arm and a leg, they would support in, providing easily accessible packages via the programming, access to technical assistance, the people or experts who can help with specific areas of your business, maybe helping you with, mentoring, coaching, the things that you really need. And access to funding as well, just helping you get investor ready in that regard. And we at Jacob's Ladder primarily focused on early stage entrepreneurs who are really at ideation stage and helping these get from their idea to launching a startup. And we do this using a variety of tools. We provide playbooks or toolkits that really help you think through a lot of things. We provide mentorship and coaching, access to technical assistance. We also are providing, training, entrepreneurship training, specifically within the green economy, amongst a number of things. And we'll soon be adding to this access to funding as well. And I mean, we are open to young people as young as 20-year-olds. And we do recognize that with these, we can begin to build not just solutions, but a whole new Africa, something that is crafted uniquely for us. And based on all this, different factors is the things that then I would say a young person or whoever, an entrepreneur, would be considering when they're thinking about what incubation program or what accelerator do I want to be part of. And there are various things I would say that would need to be considered, whether it's what stage of your startup cycle are you at? There's organizations here like Founder Institute who focus a lot more on the entrepreneur, not so much your startup. So even if you have no idea but you do have aptitude, they will take you in. There's programs that will focus more on let's say having had a business for 2 years plus. There's very many models. So it's do the research to find out what stage does the program admit entrepreneurs into their program. And then what industries have they developed competence in? Because they will have aggregated the resources or the individuals that would be supporting you within that specific industry. And for me, a very big one that has come up a lot is what community have they built? Because a big part of your journey towards success as an entrepreneur will be the community that you have around you. There are those that will keep you true to yourself, ask you the hard questions, support you, genuinely support you. I do know that young people, business people that have been in, I would say, the professional type of businesses that are not necessarily innovative, have benefited a lot from, like, I think it's called BNI Business Network International. And I do know personally a lot of people who have generated a number of, deals just by virtue of those networks. So think a lot about what sort of community you want to plug into, whether you're looking to, go into tech or agriculture, whichever space it is. Be mindful of the community and assess whether it's in alignment with who you are and what you believe in, not just what you do. What you do is secondary, in my view. Who you are is primary. So find communities that you align with, and therefore then choose your, incubator, accelerator based on that. I think the last thing that I'll say is maybe 2 or 3 things as I wrap this up. I think we as an African people need to build for or consider the value or the place of 3 important things. First, our unique Africanness. Second, the place of imagination. And third, the place of hope. So our unique Africanness, I think this has come out quite a bit in the previous conversations. I have seen a number of, businesses looking to copy what we have seen in other markets and bring to, the current market. The example that I shared about the financial product development that I was part of was that we were trying to copy an existing product that we, were familiar with, but recognized soon after that it didn't quite match where we were, which was Kenya at that point. There is a need for us to, as Africans, to build our Africanness into our business models. For example, the place of community. We cannot deny, I think all of us have examples from our backyards of the little groupings of people that came together to, do things, whether it's the Osusu net, kind of model in Nigeria or merry-go-rounds here in Kenya. I mean, there's different names that we may call it. And it's, I guess, a lot prevalent amongst the women, at least in Kenya. And I've seen these groups literally build homes, furnish homes, take children to school, etc., just by virtue of the community aspect that's built in. It's what gave the cooperative movement such fire when it was at its peak. The aspect of building in a way that considers the next person. So that's one important thing. The second thing is a place of imagination. I'm a fan of studying butterflies specifically, and specifically the notion of transforming from one state to the next state, how it moves from being a caterpillar to a butterfly. And the link between the two is what they call the imaginal cells. I believe in every one of us having put what is similar to that imaginal cell, a spark, a fire, whatever you may want to call it, linked to your spirituality, that really gets you beyond, what you've always seen around you. And we all then can activate that to move to, a whole different plane of existence. And then lastly, the place of hope. I believe that reality follows the path of expectation. Just this morning, I was reading how in a single day, the NSE, that's the Nairobi Stock Exchange, jumped significantly or gained, value significantly, just because one campus specifically, that's Safaricom, is just about to, pay out dividends. So just because of that expectation, there's a way that investors began to move. It's that hope or that expectation that I believe is a big reason for why Silicon Valley is what it has been. The hope, the expectation that things will work out is what has driven financiers to fund, ideas that seem really out of this world. It has, driven people to get themselves into entrepreneurial initiatives that don't seem like it's plausible, that seem bigger than life, so to speak. But it's that expectation that I believe has pushed Silicon Valley to where it is today, which began with, some of the, what you may call the American dream, some of the things that say JFK seeded into their, psyche in the 60s, the moonshot, getting them to go into the moon and everything. I believe first of all, as entrepreneurs, we do have to harness that hope, but as the ecosystem enablers as well, we also do have a place to paint a picture of very real possibilities of becoming more than what we've always been. And when we harness this as both, entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship support organizations, we then can collectively create a movement of hope, not just for ourselves, but for the entire African continent to go into a new place. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much, Andy. I will hand it back to you.
Wow, thank you so much, Karen. There's a lot that I was putting together. And just adding the few insights that you shared, Africanness into the product, spark of fire, imagination. I like the butterfly example. It's just spot on. And then hope. Fantastic there, Karen. There are a few comments in the chat box which were more or less like touting and then, you know, just adding more impetus to some of the points that you were sharing, and the perspectives, incorporating the African nature into the enterprise. We need an African Silicon Valley indeed, but we will have to really build a narrative around who we are as unique African people, with community as something that we really thrive with. We are people of community, and we find it very difficult acting in silos. So thank you so much for sharing those insights. We have our last panelist, who is also going to probably add some sort of a layer to what Karen rightly shared in the context of incubators and accelerators. There's a panelist who is the director of programs for AfriLabs. AfriLabs, if you know and have heard of them, is the largest, you know, body of innovation labs or tech hubs on the continent, and she designs the programs and the strategies of the AfriLabs. I'm sure she's going to add more impetus to what Karen shared in terms of how we Africans have to navigate this phase of designing programs and then also offering our services, particularly African incubators and accelerators. She's going to be speaking on the topic technology and innovation support. So Nanko Madu, if you are there, over to you, Nanko. Nanko is just incredible. You're going to love this. So please take and stay, tell a friend to tell another friend that we are on the African Entrepreneurship Forum, and the conversation is just getting more exciting. Over to you, Nanko.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Lolo, please can you help me just drop my slides from your end? It's really a pleasure being here. And it's really nice seeing young Africans doing incredible things on the continent. Like Andy said, my name is Nanko Madu, and I'm here today to talk to you about three things. You know, building on the work that we've done with entrepreneurs over the years. So I'll be talking about the availability and accessibility of technology and innovation support. But I will also touch on the common errors or mistakes that entrepreneurs make and how to avoid them. And lastly, I will be sharing a success story with you about an entrepreneur that we are currently supporting. Next slide, please. So AfriLabs is a Pan-African organization that works with multiple stakeholders to unlock Africa's vast potential and drive sustainable economic growth across the continent through investment, innovation, technology, and entrepreneurship. We currently have a network of over 450 hubs in 53 African countries and 260 cities. Karen already explained, you know, basically what hubs do. So that's what they do. And then we support them from the back end with, you know, capacity building so that they're able to better support their own communities of entrepreneurs, innovators, and startups. We support them with data, reliable data for decision making. And we also give them platforms for networking so that they're able to network with the right stakeholders to scale, you know, to access funding, et cetera. And finally, we also, you know, provide them with resources, you know, funding as well as program resources for them to thrive and progress. Next slide, please. So, I mean, Africa, as we know, presents a range of opportunities for entrepreneurs across different sectors and industry due to our vast and rapidly growing economics and geographical disparities. You know, there are a number of opportunities that exist, but I chose these 5 as key areas based on the work that we've done with entrepreneurs, with hubs in the past. The first will be, the big opportunity. One of the biggest opportunities that we see is tech-enabled industries. We've seen the emergence of a number of industries that have picked traction, right? Leveraging on technology and innovation. The first will be e-commerce, with an increased number of people shopping online, having access and connectivity to internet. We've seen entrepreneurs taking advantage of this trend by launching platforms that cater to niche markets or offer a wide range of products and services. Meanwhile, this has also extended to opening other sectors and industries, like delivery, logistics, and the likes. The second emerging market or emerging industry that we've seen is health tech. Just after COVID, things went a bit crazy around health and technology, and we've seen traction in the African market on delivery of healthcare solutions through technologies such as telemedicine, mobile health apps, and the likes. This sector has huge potential due to the continent's large population, limited access to healthcare facilities, and numerous health workers moving out of the continent for greener pastures. In Nigeria, for example, we've seen an increase in brain drain of healthcare workers. And so one of the solutions that a founder came up with was an online platform where Nigerian doctors that are outside of the country are able to consult with people and people pay. So, people are being innovative, they're coming up with these solutions. And we all know that newer challenges create new opportunities to engage, and so provides an opportunity, for entrepreneurs to brand into that. The fourth I would like to talk about is in agriculture. Agriculture remains a crucial part of our being as Africans, because it remains a key component of our economics, and making agri-tech another promising area for startups and entrepreneurs, from crop monitoring systems to blockchain-based supply chain management tools. There are a number of opportunities for entrepreneurs looking to innovate within that field. Many farm-to-fork options need to come alive to service the growing and people and the growing people population on the continent. And the last that I would like to talk about under this industry is energy, renewable energy technologies. We are seeing an increased interest in this from investors. We're running quite a number of EU-funded projects that are really identifying and funding or growing enterprises in the renewable energy sector, because a lot of our communities, a lot of our countries remain, challenged by access to electricity. And so creating an opportunity for tech startups to develop our own solar power solution or other renewable energy sources remain an opportunity that can be tapped into. Again, this industry presents some of Africa's most exciting opportunities in tech for startups and entrepreneurs. But as the ecosystem grows, we have seen an involvement. One of the areas that we're beginning to really look at as an organization is AI. And we tried last year, September, we did, we started to do a study, on the landscape of AI as well as the ethics component of it. And I tell you that between then and now, the rapid growth and difference is a lot, to show you that technology pushes for rapid growth and development, and the earlier we're able to catch up with it, the better. The second is hubs and incubator. I mean, Karen did a fantastic job, in just explaining the role of hubs and incubators. As hubs, who run incubators and acceleration programs to us. They stand as valuable resources and opportunity for entrepreneurs to get started and succeed. A lot of hubs, particularly the ones within our network, they support early startups, and they run programs, incubator programs, acceleration programs, and through those programs they provide mentorship, training, funding to early stage companies. I already mentioned that we have over 450 across 260 cities, and most of these programs are run at zero or little cost. So it is an opportunity for entrepreneurs to tap into it and be able to be guided, as they create their own or create their own idea, build their own idea, or scale their current products. The third I would like to touch on is marketplaces. Notably, one of the key drivers for the future success of African tech entrepreneurs is the continent's large and young population. The demographic provides a massive potential market that can be tapped into by entrepreneurs across various industries. Online retail revenue in Africa is estimated to grow to $20 billion annually in the near future. We are at par with countries like China, but unlike China, our population is even growing faster. And so our demographics will remain skewed to younger people for decades to come. That is market right there, and how else can we tap into that market but through, platforms that, gives us access beyond our locality. We have all the components for rapid expansion, both in our overall economy and in e-commerce. And so when we look at platforms like Jumia, which is the largest platform in Africa, Jumia is generating 23 million visits per month currently. And they are one of the most Pan-African platforms. They are touching on countries like Nigeria. They're very big in Nigeria, Egypt, Morocco, Kenya, Tunisia, and more. And so there are more marketplaces emerging, including the one that we'll be launching today, Jumi Trade. Today entrepreneurs can leverage on this. Yes, Jumi Trade that we're launching today, and entrepreneurs can leverage on this in two ways: either to push their products to other markets, or to also begin to think of building their own platforms, right? Where they're able, the untapped markets can be reached. So great opportunity there. And the other one I would like to talk about is networking events and conferences. Most times entrepreneurs overlook, these opportunities to network, but we've seen that it is a great resource and opportunities. You get to meet investors, you get to meet potential mentors, you get to meet customers or even partners in the industries that you can work with. Some of the most popular ones that you can look up is one, the AfriLabs annual gathering. It is a networking event that is held annually and brings together all the key stakeholders within the entrepreneurship ecosystem for conversations, for networking, for contacting, and the likes. Another one will be TechCrunch Startup Battlefield, another big tech entrepreneur platform and conference that you can look up. And finally, the Africa Tech Summit. These platforms, like I said, are huge opportunities that you can leverage on to connect with other entrepreneurs and people that can help you. The last thing I'd like to touch on is grants. And this is I did think twice before I put up the grant funding, because in pushing for grant as a means of funding for entrepreneurs, we've noted that entrepreneurs have, in a lot of instances, then ignored the core, which our first speaker said. Most times grant funding may skew you from your core as an entrepreneur. And so we always encourage grant financing as a key, form of seed money, to either explore business opportunity, or supply working capital for your business plan, to provide assistance in other ways. And so we encourage the utilization of these grants at very early stages of the businesses, as long as you have these caveats that, one, grants are not free money, right? They are not free money. They are meant for specific things. And so if you use them for those specific things, then you will be able to experience growth. And then second, receiving a grant is not an end to itself, right? You have a business, but grant is just aiding you to get to the end of where you want to be. It's just a step in the business development process. And so the goal is to create a successful business venture. There are so many grant funding opportunities. Some we as AfriLabs are working on, and I'm going to mention a few. We have the Youth Adapt Challenge that provides $100K grants to enterprises in the climate adaptation space. We also have the Rev Up Women program that gives $10K of grants to women SMEs to be able to take off, their ideas and innovation. We also have another called the Catalytic Africa Fund. For this, we partnered with ABAN, African Business Angel Network. And on this, what we did is we have the grant as matching fund. So we pushed the entrepreneurs, give them an opportunity to network with angel investors from the ABAN network. When they decide to fund or to invest in you, the investment then unlocks funding up to 60,000 euros, into the businesses. Yeah, next slide, please. Now I want to talk about some common mistakes that entrepreneurs make, that we've seen either through our programs or through our programs or through the support that the programs that helps run. And I've picked out 4 again. There are numerous, but I've picked out 4 for the benefit for the purpose of this conversation. The first is the lack of thorough market research. I think Karen also, talked about this. When you are starting a business, you need to understand, 1, the industry that you're getting into, 2, the market, right? Adopting ideas or solutions that work in other places might not necessarily work for you. So we've seen a lot of entrepreneurs, they have this fantastic idea, they think it's going to work. In fact, they tell you that they've done their research, except that at the point that the product is ready, then it's not fit for the market, right? Or it's not they didn't think of the size of the market. So they do a product for Malawi, for example, and after that they find out that the Malawi market is not so big. Then they start to think of, how do we expand? How do we grow, even before finalizing their product? So it's very important, that you utilize both simple and complex market research tools or methods to be able to get the clarity on your venture before starting. The second is insufficient business planning and financial management. One of the things that we've seen very interesting is that a lot of entrepreneurs start entrepreneurship just because they cannot find a job, or just because that is the only, or there's an opportunity that presents itself, perhaps a grant opportunity, an innovation challenge was put out there and they have an excellent idea. And so there is no core planning, there's no business plan in place, there's no financial management frameworks in place. And so this obviously impacts the businesses negatively. And so we encourage entrepreneurs to have a clear business plan, have clear fundraising channels, clear financial management plans and tools, as well as the scaling plans for their businesses. And there are lots of free resources that can support with that. Like I said, the hubs themselves are a resource that you can work in. They teach or support businesses in developing all of these plans and the likes. The other thing I'd like to talk about is ignoring legal and regulatory compliance. This has come up quite a bit. And in Nigeria, for example, there was this traction, right, that fintech had. They were booming, they were, doing things, making money, getting investment, and then boom, apparently there are some legal requirements and regulations that were supposed to have been, done that most of them ignored, and so the government just clamped in on them, and then there was a negative effect of that. So it's very, very important to focus when you're going into a business or when you're running a business, what are the regulatory compliance and legal what are the requirements, what do I need to do? You can seek for advice on that and just ensure that you're both in place. And also be keeping an ear down, for, potential changes within that sector, to be able to position yourself for success. And then complacency and cold feet in catching up with technology trend. We've seen a number of entrepreneurs kind of hold back when it comes to technology, right? Technology is rapidly evolving. It is moving and people are moving with it. So it's good to stay in touch, with the latest trend and not change your business per se, but kind of pivot, right? To be able to accommodate some of those technology trends and tools in place. Lastly, my next slide, I would like to talk about a success story. I'd like to tell you a little story about Joy. Joy Supese is the co-founder of Green Tech Impact Technologies. She is from Lilongwe, Malawi, right? And she's doing an incredible work in the renewable energy sector. She's one of our winners in the Youth Adapt Challenge. When we met her, we found out that their business was focusing on bringing affordable renewable energy to, they were targeting over 5,000 households and counting, and they're trying to provide affordable renewable energy through the PG to unelectrified communities. Fantastic. We were blown away. In addition, they wanted to impact and support smallholder farmers in rural Malawi. The smallholder farmers use the solar home systems for lightning during marketing, grading, and packaging of their produce after dark, right? So the electricity or the power will then enable them to work, even when it's dark by then, and therefore enhancing their revenues. Like I said, the time we met her, they were looking to raise $100K, to scale operations, particularly for the smallholder farmers. And so we had a conversation, we reviewed their submission, and then we gave them an opportunity. They were able to access that grant of $100K through the Youth Adapt, like I mentioned, grant funding. And since then, they've been able to raise an additional $2 million, in both in grant funding and debt financing. This is within a 2-year period. And their work has been recognized by key players within the climate adaptation space, like the AFDB, Global Center for Climate Adaptation, and the World Bank. I thought it would be an encouragement to some of you as you navigate these challenging terrains that we find ourselves in Africa. It is good to also leverage on, the opportunities and, scale businesses. In parting, I'm going to say that, as Africans, we are resilient, right? Despite the obstacles, the challenges. My work around Africa makes me feel that Africa is one big country. The challenges are so similar, right? But also the resilience is the same. We are unstoppable, and so, we need to continue to unleash, and crumble the barriers, that are against us, and continue to fuel the limitless growth and potential that we have as a continent. Let's build this continent together. The next slide has my contact. In the event that you're interested in being connected to a hub, or, being connected to a hub, or you want to access some of the programs that we are supporting, you can reach out to us, and I will be happy to connect and help. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Nanko. Maybe if you don't mind, maybe you can text send your email in the chat box. I think a few people asked for it, but that was just amazing, Nanko. The work that you do and the case study that you shared. If you can probably do some small video for shared value, post conversation to feature this case study in some of our materials. I mean, particularly with the amazing things that AfriLabs is also doing. All right, so as Nanko shared, she gave us some sort of a quick teaser into the launch of Jammy Trade, giving us that sort of understanding with what we should actually be looking for to experiencing as African entrepreneurs, connecting with each other, learning from each other, and exchanging experiences that we all face to be able to support someone in another country to navigate those things very easily. So Jammy Trade, as we said earlier, is the intra-Africa sort of platform where you and I can share learnings together. It's entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs, pioneering the next wave of economic transformation across our countries on this continent. But before we enter into the launch of Jammy Trade, let us quickly take this poll just for 1 minute to understand if the discussion has been useful for you, all right, and your organization. Let us know how this has added some sort of value to you, and then together we can even make it much more better, subsequent, installments. Okay, did you find the discussion useful for you and your organization? Let us know what you think. Okay, thank you. Oh my goodness, we are truly unstoppable. This resilient continent. We are truly unstoppable. Namco just gave us that tagline for the launch of Jammy Trade. All right, let's see the results of the polls. The third poll for the day. Yes. Wonderful. Yeah. Giving me a few insights on available opportunities. Wow. We have 9% saying that, yeah, they have a lot of thinking and researching to do. Of course, these conversations that we had from our first speaker, Michael, to the last Nanko, I bet you personally, I'm even intrigued, and there's even so much more that I personally have to do to be able to, stay ahead and on top of issues. All right. Okay, before we move to the last and final aspect of this amazing conversation that we've had this morning, this afternoon, wherever you find yourself on the continent, we have now reached to this point where we need to launch Jammy Trade. 3 key pointers for you to know about the platform. This is the beta phase of the product where we want to monitor how entrepreneurs connect with each other across border and start building our community. The community is called Jammy. Jammy is actually a Swahili word that means community. And so we are putting this narrative, this mindset into action, where you and I can be able to express ourselves on the things that matter to us and find a way of sharing this knowledge, this insight, to make sure that we are building a continent that you and I can be proud of. So the beta test is going to be lasting for 3 months, and then we would share updates on social media. So you can follow Jammy Trade on Instagram, on LinkedIn, across all social media platforms. And of course, the Shared Life Care Initiative is going to be sending you emails every now and then to keep you updated as you build your profile on the platform. So it's a community platform. You can think of it as your LinkedIn for trade, okay, where you can share everything that you're working on. And we need entrepreneurs who are going to be what we would term as the Jammy Trade pioneers. So your active involvement on the platform, it's so critical. You're going to get more benefits and all that. But hey, before I tell you anything more, let's watch a 2-minute video about the platform, all right?
Navigate to jammitrade.africa, where you can log in or create a new account. Remember to use at least 1 capital letter and 1 digit when creating your unique password. Complete your user profile, sharing a bit about yourself and your areas of interest so that we can customize your Jammy experience. You will see a notification that asks you to confirm your email address. Check your email, click on the link, and you are activated. On the home page, you have quick access to a lot of information. You can complete polls, join featured channels, connect with featured members, or start a post. The hashtags you select when creating a post on your timeline enables us to customize the channels that you follow and the information that you see on your timeline. You can also access members, people, or organizations, or engage via the channels, groups of interest, or Jammy Pulse. In the Learn section, you can access training courses and learning resources from research to the latest trade reports, everything an entrepreneur needs to stay informed. The Trading Hub is where it all happens. You're automatically connected based on the country you reside in and can connect with Jammy members within or from outside your country. Here you will find insights on the latest developments and can engage in discussions on issues of importance. As Jammy Trade is a collaboration and networking platform, you can connect and engage with any member. These would be friends and those you follow out of interest. And if you're curious to see what members are talking about across the Jammy Trade platform, just visit the Jammy Pulse.
Scan me, scan me, scan me. Screen is shouting, scan me now. Scan me now. Scan, quickly scan. I'm giving you 2 minutes to just scan or just visit jammytrade.africa. It's a web app version at the moment. The mobile app version would be live after the pilot phase, which is 3 months period. So we're gonna have the mobile app version where you can find it on Play Store, on Apple Play Store, on Google, Play Store and all that, all your stores, app stores, and we need to get your feedback. We need to know what you think about the platform at its beta phase now, all right? So that we can incorporate all your feedback into making this platform live up to its full potential, all right? It is a platform that, trust me, if we are able to all come together and get it to take off, to take flight, it is going to do something incredibly amazing for our continent, particularly for youth or young entrepreneurs that we have. And we want the SVAI entrepreneurs ecosystem to have the first hand of experiencing the full benefits of the platform. So if I say benefits, it means that they are going to be, some sort of what we call badges, where you are, for the most active users, you're going to have your badges accumulate, and you can convert that to be able to purchase any product, anything, convert that like, convertible digital currencies, where you can use that to get any opportunities that the platform would be offering. During the pilot phase, we just want to have the experience with our entrepreneurs. So post-pilot, we will have network partners being onboarded onto the platform. Network partners where they are going to share all the opportunities that they have on policy, on funding, on scaling your enterprises and all that. So during the beta phase, we are going to have what we call the Jammy Pioneers. The Jammy Pioneers. So we want you to be a part of our pioneering users for Jammy Trade, as we want this platform to accelerate the progress and the change that we want to see on the continent. Are you excited as I am? Oh my goodness. I can feel your digital claps and digital excitement and chats. Let's get this going. Please become a Jammy pioneer, all right? So that we can exchange all the ideas that we potentially have, in us, all the ideas to make Africa the continent that we can be proud of. So there you have it. That's been just amazing listening to our speakers. Oh my goodness. I see Darlington. Oh my goodness. I like the digital Vivian. Thank you. Thank you so much for staying with us for the first installment of the African Entrepreneurship Forum. Went a bit, we exceeded the time. Pardon us for that, because there was so much to share and there's so much excitement beaming now. And hey, if you want to find a way of also getting the Jammy Trade platform easily accessible to you, when you put in the Jammy Trade, .Africa in your web your web app or any platform, Google Chrome or Safari that you use on your phone, you can actually save the web app as a home on your home screen. All right, you can just go to some 3 dots on the side of your URL, right, and you can save it as a home screen, like just have it as a web app on your screen. Okay, just go to the URL, you find home screen, save to your home screen. And I'm sure a lot of people here are tech savvy, so you can figure this out and get easy access to the platform. Let's see the first 10, the first 20 people signing up today. When you sign up, you can also give us a shout out on social media, #JammyTrade, #SharedValueAfrica, on all our platforms that, hey, you are on the platform and you know about JammyTrade, and it's going to cause something amazing for you and also for the continent. So my closing note, I have 3 takeaways for you. And those is from all the things that we heard today from Michael, from Grace, from Karen, and then from Nanko. My top 3 takeaway for you. The first thing Michael shared on his 3 or 4 points for you as accessing funding is to be solving for something. So clear idea that is actually solving for something. You are solving for a specific challenge. So that's the first thing. You can't be an African entrepreneur who is not actually solving for the challenges and the pain points of your people. We have people who believe in each other. And whenever we launch a product, we deploy a product, we want to solve for someone. Because when you get someone's problem solved, that is when you earn. That is when you make a living. The next thing is on Grace, the change in mindset bit. So Grace said call to action, and he said changing mindset and then being at the forefront of the opportunities. Being at the forefront of the opportunity is so critical. That is why we need you to even be a part of the JammyTrade pioneers. Being at the forefront of this opportunity, understanding that this opportunity could cause a shift in your career, in your startup, and this is how you're able to grow. And then we went to Karen, who shared amazing things. And one thing that stuck with me was the Africanness of your product. The Africanness of your product. Don't lose your Africanness. Rep Africa everywhere. Show Africa everywhere. Let people understand that you are building first from the African continent and for the African people before the rest of the world could benefit from your solution. Solve first for Africa and have that spark in you. The last thing from Nanko is that keep being resilient. Keep being resilient. The resilience, the fortitude that you have in you. Don't lose the fire. Keep the fire burning. And let's continue to make Africa that one place that we can all be a proud of. So that is it. Thank you so much for joining us for the first installment of the African Entrepreneurship Forum. We are going to be seeing you shortly on the next, quarter edition. Please follow Shared Value across all social media platforms and keep an eye on your email. There are going to be updates and follow-ups with you. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day and have an amazing weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.